Hey, look at me. My name is Alan Bruce Jones, and I'm a judge in Colorado. And I had to sentence Rogel to 110 years. I had to. I was powerless. I'm just a judge. I only make 150,000 plus a year, and I got all the power in the world. I got political power. I got power in terms of money. But I had to give him a 110 year sentence. I had to. My hands were tied. This poor guy, poor Alan Bruce Jones. He was handcuffed. Basically, he's the victim. He's the victim in this case. Poor Alan Bruce Jones. He just wanted to send Rogel Aguilera something to jail forever and ever. Mederos. So Rogel is Rogel. So Rogel. But I think by anglicizing it, people, well, you already got 5 million signatures on the damn petition saying it's a bunch of bullshit. So, I mean, that's I'm just poor powerless, man. I can't do what's right or good. I'm bound by Colorado law. He's going to say he's bound by Colorado law. You know what's Colorado law? You can't hand down cruel and unusual punishments. No excessive bail, no excessive fines, nor cruel nor unusual punishments can be administered. That's America, right? The 8th Amendment, but it's also Colorado. Article 2, Section 20. Section 21 is the right to habeas corpus. Article 2, Section 28 is that natural rights are still protected. That's the 9th Amendment to the US Constitution, too. So even we got constitutional freedoms, but we have all those freedoms that are provided in nature that have not been codified. Oh, I'm just poor. I'm a poor victim here. I can't. This motherfucker didn't know that, rights and freedoms are law. Hey, Alan Bruce Jones. I know you don't realize this, but the Bill of Rights and Freedoms, that's law. So you can't have cruel and unusual punishments. You know what's an unusual punishment? 110 year sentence. 110 year sentence. You know how weird and unusual that is? James Holmes, I think, got a life sentence. You could have gone around and killed 100 people and got a less sentence than what Rogel got. You could have gone around stabbing and killing a whole bunch of people, and you would have got a less sentence. But he had to do it. He had to put cruel and unusual punishments. He had to. Colorado law, well, actually, his dumb interpretation of Colorado law that ignores Colorado freedoms, he added up 1 plus 1 and got 110. So, what are we talking about? What is going on? So, April 2019, you had 26-year-old Rogel. I'm going to say Rogel. I think we'll remember Rogel for a long time, and this would be better. So Rogel Aguilera-Mederos, he was driving a semi-truck in Lakewood, Colorado, when the brakes went out. The semi-trailer with lumber on it is just going all over the place. He's trying to stop it. There's air brakes and shit. He doesn't know how to stop it. And it ultimately ends up with him slamming into traffic, and he's going to kill 4 people. 4 people and dozens are injured. There's a big explosion, lots of damage. And then in October, he's going to be found guilty of 27 criminal charges. Now, the jury is going to sit there and say, if they knew about the 110-year sentence, the mandatory minimums, they wouldn't have found him guilty on 27 criminal charges. Now, 27, that might sound bad, but I think it was 42, so he actually beat 15 charges. Now, they're going to try to say that he's being sentenced under, Colorado law, the minimum. It's the minimum under Colorado law. Now, with the, CRS, with the Colorado revised statutes, that's correct. But the law isn't just the CRS, it's also the Constitution, it's Supreme Court cases, it's a whole bunch of stuff. So when he says that, Colorado law forced him to steal this man's body, the right to habeas corpus said you can't steal his body. Article 2, Section 21, natural rights are still protected. You can't fuck somebody over like that royally. Jesus Christ, it's almost... There are 4 people that are dead. And so part of me wants to think that there's some justice to this. But he's a young person. He's a Cuban immigrant. He came to America when he was 19 years of age, and he feels sorry for what he'd done. Kim Potter couldn't even get a single tear to drop. But he was, he says he's never hurt anybody in his life. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody that day. It was an accident. And what do cops always say? It's a civil thing. So this means all those people should have sued him. And what money are they going to get? Probably not much. But it was an accident. He didn't go out and intentionally go to kill people. So this is like it's a Kim Potter case, right? This is a negligent homicide. And it's the minimum. So Aguilera-Mederos must serve multiple sentences for the 4 deaths and 16 injured. And he's got to do it consecutively, not concurrently. Well, that's dumb as shit. Those mandatory minimum fucking laws are dumb as shit. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot that Colorado needs to fix. Not only do we need to fix the mandatory minimum laws, we need to fix the Constitution. We need to fix all these laws. The Colorado Constitution is the longest constitution probably in the world, in America. There's over 200 pages to Colorado's Constitution. And then CRS is over 20,000 pages long. There's 44 titles of CRS, the Colorado Code. And what does that mean? That means no judge, nor prosecutor, nor any lawyer, nor any law enforcer has read all of Colorado's laws. Nobody has read all of Colorado's laws. For some reason, judges do not assume that our constitutional freedoms are law. You can't have a cruel and unusual punishment. When he was sitting there saying, well, the mandatory minimum law, what about cruel and unusual punishment? Did that even come into factor? Did that even come into play? Was he, well, this is a little cruel, a little unusual. Yeah, it's unusual. We only live to be about, 87 years old? 76 is the average lifespan. So 110 years sentence, he's 26, that's 136. He's not going to live to be 136 years old. What is the point of saying 110 years sentence? Why not make it 550 billion year sentence? It wouldn't fucking matter anyways. And then ultimately, justice is eye for an eye, but it was an accident. So ultimately, are we as a society, are we helped? Does this make our world a better place by throwing this, young man into prison for the rest of his life? People want to talk about, no welfare queens, but we're going to sit there and feed and clothe and house him. He came to capitalist America. He got himself a job. So Colorado has way too many goddamn laws. There's some sort of saying that says, show me, a nation with too many laws and I'll show you a corrupt nation. When you have that many laws, that means the lawyers and the prosecutors, they're cherry picking. They're only saying these are the laws that they're paying attention to, and that's what they're focused on. You can't think of 20,000 pages of CRS and 200 pages of a Constitution all at once. Now, there's another big problem. There's several big problems. The judge retention elections, the way that Colorado elects the judges is bullshit. The way that Colorado elects their judges is by retention election. So you have the governor, right? I like Jared Polis, but the governor appoints these judges, and then they just stay judge for life. They're not Supreme Court justices. They're just, trial court judges. So they'll appoint these judges, and they get $150,000, per year for the rest of their lives. And after these judges have been appointed, then they'll throw us a retention election. These bullshit retention elections just ask us, do you want to retain the judge or not? And so let's look at this Jones, right? You got this Jones character. Alan Bruce Jones. Alan Bruce Jones was appointed by Ritter in 2010, 2014, had a retention election, 2020, had another retention election. Guess how he did in his election in 2020? This Alan Bruce Jones must be the most fucking popular judge in goddamn Colorado because he got 75%. His district says, yes, we overwhelmingly are going to make sure he sits back on the bench. Now, what I got a problem with is, the whole goddamn thing. This election isn't competitive. He's not running against anybody else. He was already appointed. He's already the judge. And so when they say, hey, do you want him to be the judge? The question, I guess, is, do you want to judge or not? If you don't want to judge, Jared Polis will have to appoint somebody else. And then 6 years later, you'll get a retention election or some shit. So, yeah, these retention elections are bullshit. And the fact that the people go along with it 70, 75%, 80%, that's not Diverger's law. That's not close. But the question is stupid. It's saying, it looks like, do you want to judge or not? Do you like this judge? Yes or no? So I don't like the judge retention elections. Constitution, CRS, way too many Colorado laws. Judges don't assume that constitutional freedoms are law. Judges impose harsh sentences after a jury verdict. I feel like the jury should just go ahead and do the sentencing. The jurors complained that they wouldn't have convicted him of 27 charges if they knew the sentence was going to be 110 years. Why wasn't the jury notified that Colorado law has mandatory minimums? The jury come up with the verdict, so let them impose a sentence so that way they can make sure this thing is fair, from beginning to the end. Getting a jury in there just to say, yeah, that guy's guilty, and then giving it back to the judge. There's 42 charges. I don't like how they, throw a shit ton of charges at him. It was one major accident. Yeah, a lot of people were affected. But they're going to sit there and say, well, the prosecutors tried to argue for the minimum of the mandatory minimums. But the prosecutors are the ones that put 42 fucking charges on, Rogel. And then last but not least, what about Johnny Hurley and Kraig Brownlow? So this Alexis King, the district attorney for this case, the district attorney that put 42 charges on Rogel, is Alexis King. And Alexis King is the same person that covered up Johnny Hurley's murder. Johnny Hurley was a hero. Johnny Hurley saved the day. There's an active gunman shooting people up. He comes in, shoots the gunman dead. He saved the day. The cops were scared, and they were hiding under their desk and hiding in their office. Kraig Brownlow, he opens the door, and he shoots and kills Johnny Hurley. Kraig Brownlow shot and killed Johnny Hurley. Shot 3 times. Killed Johnny Hurley. What happened to Kraig Brownlow? He didn't even get charged. Kraig Brownlow didn't even get charged by Alexis King. So Alexis King spent all this time to, give Rogel a 110-year sentence when it was an accident. He didn't mean to do what he did, but Kraig Brownlow, he meant to. He deliberately shot at Johnny Hurley with the intent to murder and kill him. And he did it. And he didn't even get a ticket. He didn't get a single charge. He didn't get 42 charges, let alone a single charge. So what's up with the discrepancy, Alexis King? Alexis King is supposed to be a reformer, but if you're a cop, you're allowed to intentionally murder a person, and you don't even get a ticket, you don't even get a charge. Alexis King doesn't believe in her own criminal justice system. She had to bury those charges before a charge was even put out, because if you would have put a charge on Kraig Brownlow, the Rocket Docket Slaughterhouse would have destroyed him. So when they act like their hands are tied, their hands are tied. Kraig Brownlow straight up murdered Johnny Hurley. Aimed for him, deliberately, knowingly, killed him. Now he's going to say he thought Johnny Hurley was the active gunman. How the fuck would you know? You were hiding behind your desk. But that's what he's going to say. And so Alexis King is going to say, we can't convict him because we're going to ignore objective reality. It's incredible what Alexis King said about the Johnny Hurley and Kraig Brownlow case. Alexis King says we're going to ignore the objective reality of the situation, and all we're going to go with is Kraig Brownlow's perspective. That's all we're going to take into account. Did he believe that he was shooting at the gunman? Was his perception, was it possible that he could have perceived that the gunman, that Johnny Hurley was the gunman? And since he was like, well, it's a possibility, fuck it, let's not even charge him with the goddamn crime. So there's a lot of problems in Colorado, but specifically, let's look at Alexis King. These prosecutors are going to gloat. They're celebrating a 110-year sentence like they won a Monopoly game. Kayla Wildeman, she used a truck brake as a trophy. Talked about Trevor Moritsky. Said that he was old enough to be her father, but is a new best friend at work or some shit. So they took the truck brake and they're using it as a trophy. It's incredible how they bond over fucking people's lives over. That's what the systemite class, that's what they do. They keep their feet on the necks of the poor people to exploit the poor people. And they're a bunch of parasites that get their jollies off of exploiting poor people. It's how they make their money. It's how they make their living. They're all going to pretend that this Trevor Moritsky, thanks Trevor Moritsky, what a scholar and a gentleman. Thank goodness Trevor Moritsky got this Rogel, this terrorist Rogel, off the streets. Thank goodness. Now our streets are safe again. Thank you, Trevor Moritsky. What an officer and a gentleman and a scholar, a milquetoast establishmentarian, a systemite ruining a citizen's life yet once again. That's like a serial killer memento. You know, serial killers are going around, they'll keep something of the victims that they kill. They ruined a man's life, so let's pretend they did something great. Too many times prosecutors want to get as many convictions as possible to brag to their voters that they've convicted 1 million people. So therefore, they're doing their jobs, right? Prosecutors, judges. What have you done? Well, I've thrown 1 million people in jail. Were they all criminals, or are you just being too fucking much? So, but that's their algorithm. The algorithm is convict as many people as possible. They're doing their jobs unless they got money, and then they throw a lawyer at them. Then, oh shit, you gotta back away from the fascist authoritarianism then. But fuck that mentality, fuck that perspective. Re-elect you because you threw 1 million people in jail? Jesus Christ, I don't want 1 million convictions. 1 million convictions means the entire neighborhood's going to be in jail. I want peace and truth and justice. I want to live in a peaceful neighborhood. So I don't want 1 million convictions. I want 1 million pre-trial diversions. I want 1 million restorative justice resolutions. You had restorative justice. You didn't just believe in justice, but you believed in restorative justice. So that way we can all be one great society again. I don't want 1 million convictions. I want 1 million restorative justice resolutions. But like I said, the system's entire livelihoods are based upon stepping on our necks. The justice system is a system of oligarchs. They pick winners and losers. There's no discernible guidelines except which team are you on. Johnny Hurley wasn't a cop. He was a citizen. He saved the day like he was a cop. And that's probably why the jealous cop killed him. And the prosecutor went ahead and buried that case, covered it up, made sure not even Alexis King, the same prosecutor that's going to push 110 years on Rogel, said that Kraig Brownlow didn't even deserve to be charged. What the fuck? What the fuck? Alexis King, she'll look at a person that killed somebody intentionally, but that person was on her team. Don't even get a charge. And then somebody that accidentally killed some folks, poor Cuban immigrant, well, throw the damn book at him, 110 years. Throw the library at him. Shit, why just throw the books when you could throw the whole damn library at him? So we have all these expensive judges and lawyers and shit. They pick winners and losers with no discernible guidelines whatsoever. Where's the justice? Justice is supposed to be blind. Justice is supposed to be fair. Rogel Aguilera-Mederos deserves to be punished. One of the victims says, you know what? Judge, you should send Rogel Aguilera-Mederos to jail for 20 years. And he thought he was being ambitious. A victim said that he should go to jail for 20 years. But the judge says, how about this? I'll do you one better. I'll throw him in jail for 110 years. Then he pretends like he's not the one that imposed the sentence. Alan Bruce Jones, you imposed the sentence, you piece of shit. And he wants to say his hands are tied. He's so handcuffed, right? Colorado law says you can't have unusual punishment. That's fucking unusual. That's breaking Colorado law. So Alan Bruce Jones broke Colorado law with that 110-year sentence. So he didn't include the freedoms, of Rogel. But I was making another point, and it's slipping and gone. But what's the fucking point? What's the point? Somebody that intentionally murders somebody, that's fine and dandy. We're going to put them right back on the streets. And somebody that had an accident, a Cuban immigrant that was chasing the American dream, had an accident. We're going to ruin his life forever and ever. Was he too poor to get a good lawyer? Is that all that we give a shit about? Who's got the most expensive lawyer? Who knows the judge and the prosecutor the best? So there's, first degree assault. It's a crime of violence. 10 years minimum, right? It's an assault charge. But get this. Vehicular homicide in Colorado, not a crime of violence. Run a motherfucker over, Grand Theft Auto style. Run them over, crack their heads, take their money. When you get charged and thrown in jail, they won't charge you with a crime of violence. If you intentionally run somebody, vehicular homicide is not a crime of violence. That's not where he got. In fact, they're going to say, the prosecutors, they said that since the vehicular homicide is not a crime of violence, they went ahead and ran those, concurrently, not consecutively. So I don't believe that Alexis King even believes in her own criminal justice system. She protected her buddy, Kraig Brownlow, didn't even give him a ticket, didn't even give him a charge. If your justice system is so goddamn fair and the criminal justice system in Colorado is there to discern the truth, to get some justice, why was Kraig Brownlow not charged? Behind the scenes, behind closed doors, they determined they was going to protect their buddy from the Rocket Docket slaughterhouse. They know that the criminal justice system, it's injustice. It's Rocket Docket slaughterhouse. She knows that whoever gets accused, whoever gets charged, any fascist cop can accuse any poor schlub, and that goddamn, poor schlub will get made into sausage. He'll get made into Swiss cheese by the judge and the prosecutor. They'll rubber stamp any accusation by a fascist. These fascist judges and prosecutors rubber stamp the fascist cops, and they don't give a shit. They'll rubber stamp that if you're some poor schlub. And then they'll give you 110 years and say, well, my hands are tied. My hands are tied. I was handcuffed to the law. I had to do this. But Alexis King can forego charges with Kraig Brownlow because ultimately she knows that criminal justice in Colorado is totally fucked. You don't even want to get the charge. Don't even make a step. Don't even, the first appearance, the arraignment, don't even go in to the court. Here, I'm going to go ahead and bury that charge. You're good to go. So, yeah, if we use the Kraig Brownlow standard and we say, well, let's look at Rogel's perception. What did he think was going on? Well, his fucking brakes are going out and he's trying to drive and he's trying to figure this shit out and it's, going berserk and he don't know what to do. He's scared to death, and they said he could have done this and he could have done that. Yeah, I'm sure all you motherfuckers would have done all the great things. I bet you most of you motherfuckers couldn't even drive a damn truck. If the brake malfunctioned, then that would put it on the company. The truck wasn't a newer model. Was the company ever put on trial? Or is that a corporation? We're going to respect fucking nameless, faceless corporations. But they're the ones that hired anybody and everybody just to get the trucks moving, right? They didn't care that he was, inexperienced. He's driving through Colorado mountains. So it's, up and down and steep and it's fast and slow. And so these damn companies hired an inexperienced person, had bad brakes. It's an old truck. It was an accident. It'd be a civil, matter where it's a bunch of lawsuits. Somewhat criminal. It's somewhat criminal. But he didn't go out that day saying, I'm going to, hurt a bunch of people. He fucked up. He should be punished. 110 fucking years. That means what you just did was you made the perpetrator that killed a bunch of people into the victim. You just made him into a victim. If you guys are actually even-handed to the, Alexis King and Alan Bruce Jones, if you were even-handed and you truly believed in justice and you gave down an even-handed sentence that wasn't fucking cruel, it wasn't unusual and fucked up, if you didn't want to steal his body, you don't believe he's got habeas corpus, and you don't think about any of the natural freedoms that the 9th Amendment guarantees, or the 28th, Article 2, Section 28, the right to self-defense, right to food, water. So all right, so on that note,